Well, another week and another Big Finish review for you all. A series of reviews. They've been doing very well, and I'm glad you're all enjoying them. And we're going to carry on just straight into it.
Yes.
Because we are up to Embrace the Darkness now, and we have another 4 stories for your audio needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling.
Yeah, it's been a long day, yeah.
But speaking of rambling, let's start off with the Time of the Daleks. See, these segues, man, they're getting better.
They are getting better. I'll give you that.
What did you think of I nearly called it Evil of the Daleks, but you would be mistaken for thinking you were listening to the same thing. What did you think of the Time of the Daleks?
I just loved hearing a Dalek quoting Shakespeare, to be honest. I never thought I'd hear that in my wildest dreams.
That is a fun little gimmick, to be fair. I can't lie there. This one is about the Doctor and Charlie go to meet a alternative British tyrannical leader, very much based on a certain Mrs. Thatcher. Don't act surprised.
No, I'm not. It just tickled me.
She's basically just trying to create this time machine to go and experience Shakespeare firsthand. And it's all done with... It's quite fun in the sense that it's done with mirrors and everything. It's a bit sort of anachronistic, a bit steampunky. But lo and behold, the Daleks are also involved. Dun, dun, dun. Who saw that coming? Everyone, because it's called the Time of the Daleks. And
if they weren't in there, I would be very, very concerned.
The false advertising and trading standards, we will sue.
The reason why I really like this one is because there was Daleks in, but no, we're not going to have Daleks.
Yeah, it is fun though to hear the Daleks quoting Shakespeare, but I'm not a big Shakespeare person, so this doesn't really butter my crumpets very much. But
no, it's still good fun.
It's good fun, and I think if you're big into Shakespeare, then you'll probably get a lot out of this. But me, not. I was never that fond of Shakespeare. I didn't really enjoy doing Shakespeare in school. It was always one of those ones. Oh God, do Shakespeare now. I don't think he's bad. I get that he's very important in terms of the history of English literature and everything, and literature in general. And yeah, the surrealism of this, like you said, the Daleks talking about Shakespeare and everything. It's all good fun, but it's not really. It doesn't really do much for me. I think it has an interesting premise, but there's just not enough substance to fill out the 4 episodes.
No, it was good fun. Then it did sort of dry up the well quite quickly for me. I still enjoyed it. The story's great, and you got Shakespeare being taken out of time, people forgetting. You got the rebels using Shakespeare quotes to check on their people, make sure they're not being affected. But yeah, it's like there's quite a lot going on in this story.
There is, and I applaud it for that, and I like the scale and the ambition of it, but for me it just doesn't quite stick for me. But that's a me thing. I know it's not a universally loved one. I think it's got a bit of a renaissance in the last couple of years. It's always one that people would say, oh, it's not one of the best, it's a bit skippable. But if it ties into Seasons of Fear quite nicely with the we find out why there was that lone Dalek above the Roman forts and everything. It's quite fun like that in terms of
and continuity is great.
But I just find it a bit of a damp script. It's very techno-babbly in places. There's a lot of exposition, and it just there's an exposition that seems to go on for ages. And I know there's usually a bit more exposition with audio, just purely down to the medium anyway. But it just becomes conversational exposition, and it's just this back and forth, back and forth. I'm just not a big fan of it. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. Who knows? Let us know what you think of it. I just think for McGann's first Dalek story, it's a bit of a damp squib.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff when he's with the Daleks themselves, that's all great. And you got the way he disposes of the 2 Daleks at the end, where you messing about in the Hall of Mirrors and
trapping the Daleks,
and that. That's quite clever.
Gets a nice bit of payoff as well.
Yeah.
There are bits to like about it. It's just not one I often go back to be fair. Maybe if I got a bit more educated in Shakespeare, I'd get more out of it, but who knows?
Who's got the time?
I have got the time for nothing at the minute. I feel like I need one of those little things Hermione has in Harry Potter, the time turner things.
Yeah,
just being like 3 places at once. But that's life, innit? We've all been there. But to be fair, though, I'm not too bothered because McGann gets some cracking Dalek stories later on in his run, which we won't spoil.
No, but yes.
Yeah, you haven't even got to the best ones, mate. You haven't even got to the best ones. You've got to another sort of meh one.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, trust me, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Technically, I'm not seeing anything. I'm listening.
You're really funny.
I know. I am so overtired right now. It is incredible.
For context, we're recording this at 7:10 in the evening. It's past Tom's bedtime.
You're not far off. I need about a year's worth of sleep in one night.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Coffees just get stronger and stronger each day. Sorry for this ramble, guys.
Anyway, and that was sponsored by coffee. Neverland then. So this is the big finale really into the end of what is essentially, it's the second season, but it's the first story arc really of McGann's audio run. And it's got that feel of finale. Rather than 4 half-hour episodes, we've got 2 75-minute ones, and that really does build the scale to the finale, which I didn't know about the first time I listened to this. The first time I listened to it, I was going, oh, this is zipping along this. We haven't even had a cliffhanger yet. And then I realised I'd been listening to it for an hour and a quarter, and just thought, oh, they're double-length episodes. Well done. It's basically a 6-parter.
Yeah.
Realistically. And
great,
I love it.
Yes, so do I. You just... all the stuff with the TARDISes at the beginning as well, after the cold open, which of the Matrix going mental is incredible.
Yeah, that Matrix cold open is one of my favourite cold opens in all of Doctor Who. Not just audios and stuff, but it's just the idea of the Matrix is just sitting there categorising and listing things as it does, and then all of a sudden it just starts to get a little bit confused, and by the end of it, it's just screaming in absolute, agony, because it just can't process all of the stuff to do with the paradoxes caused by Charlie not her being killed in the R101 crash.
Yes.
And I love it. It's so good. It sets the scene so well. But yeah, but the TARDISes, this links back to Embrace the Darkness, where the Doctor sort of spots a group of TARDISes, and they're just being like, oh, we'll come back to that later. Well, it comes back to bite him in the ass a little bit.
Yes, with time torpedoes, which he says in an explanation to Charlie, and then realises what he said and is about to poop himself.
Yeah, I love that. The idea that these things could just freeze the TARDISes in a single state that allows people... Because, TARDISes are very complex. They can't just be broken into with a crowbar. It takes time. So the Time Lords plan to just basically freeze the Doctor and Charlie and break into the TARDIS. And they eventually do that, which, you sort of build up to expect, oh, they'll find a way out of this, and they don't. And that really raises the stakes of the story.
That's the thing, because Charlie's, the Doctor's sending Charlie away for, what he says, a year to this thing for a birthday. If it is a birthday, and he's going to go back and face the Time Lords. Stop.
Don't cry. It's
Stop.
Okay.
I stopped to yawn. Stop this.
Oh, it's a very emotional moment, to be fair. No, but in all seriousness, though, I do love that moment where the Doctor's trying to pile off Charlie with, oh, look, I've got this really cool birthday, and it's your birthday party for a whole year, and don't worry about me, I'm not doing anything, but you go and have fun. And she just sees right through it and knows straight away. She's like, you're full of shit.
Really solidifies their relationship at this point as well for me. And it's just they're really working well together. And it's her who sends the Doctor and her back to the time torpedoes.
Yeah, she sort of takes control, really, and puts them straight back in the path, these time torpedoes. And then we jump 100, I think it's about 300 years later, when they eventually crack the TARDIS and get in, which is quite bizarre. You wouldn't have that, really, quite often, where the story jumps 300 years in the space of a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But it's a very cool way, and because we're dealing with Time Lords here, no one's even asked. It's 300 years to them is 3 hours to us.
Yeah.
It's an afternoon. So I really like that idea, because I have a bit of an issue with the Time Lords, because as the more you know about the Time Lords, sort of the less interesting they become. You look at the War Games where you hadn't seen them before, and they're almost like these godlike figures. And then you get sort of into Classic Who as it goes on, and especially into Davison's era in the 80s, it just feels like a big fancy office with fruit bowls and comfy chairs and things like that. You think, is this what the Time Lords are about, really?
Yeah, it's the way they sort of done the Weeping Angels, isn't it? It's the mystery in not knowing is the draw. It's what keeps you hooked. So you don't need to learn more stuff about them each time they pop up. Just learn a little bit, but just if you want to add something, wait a few years and then maybe add something different. Just slowly release that information over time. Let that just set in and be like, oh Christ, these guys are amazing. Because now it's just well, they're pretty useless. As we've seen, especially in the show, the Time Lords get involved in stuff for ages, from all the way from War Games and into, I think, Davidson was the last one to have a run-in with the Time Lords. Properly.
In the classic series, yeah. So
no, not Davidson. Capaldi was the last one to have a run-in with the Time Lords.
I mean, you could count timeless children and everything that's on Gallifrey, but I know you don't want to talk about that.
No, there's a moot point at this one. But like Capaldi having that interaction with the Time Lords, they just sort of seem like useless and pathetic compared to everything else. And like
they've got a bit of a presence in this.
Yeah.
And they're using the time torpedoes and everything, and they're trying to do it because they know that Charlie is the point of this paradox, which is basically causing reality to slowly collapse around them. And there's, things like that have been mentioned, like Benjamin Franklin being president of the US in Invaders from Mars, and things like that. They all get mentioned, and it all ties into this, going that all these mistakes that we think are mistakes up until this point have actually been part of the bigger picture. And I just think it's a fun way of doing it.
Yeah.
And so we sort of go into, Charlie gets basically taken, and the Doctor gets shown these alternate realities where Romana's got a bit mad, and she's the Daleks that we see. She's sort of torturing them before trapping them and everything. And I really like that. I love the whole fake projections thing.
Yeah.
Basically, Charlie is essentially turned into a magic doll, really.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that, they can use this anti-time stuff, and there's antimatter, there's anti-time, and use that to essentially sterilise the wound. It turns Charlie into a gateway, and everyone's like, well, I wonder what's on the other side of that. So they go in, and I love the twist. I mean, spoiler warning, blah, 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 blah. That it's actually Rassilon's TARDIS, and it takes them a while to figure out that they think there's some sort of planetoid that's sort of quite metallic, and it's actually a TARDIS that's sort of just died. And they do some very cool things with TARDISes in Big Finish, because it's one of those things that you might not necessarily, maybe now, but you wouldn't be able to do on TV well.
No, the budget alone would be way more than the show would ever get.
Yeah, whereas in your head you can imagine it in all these cool landscapes and stuff. So it's the idea that it's Rassilon's TARDIS and it's him. So the rest of the plot then sort of becomes a little bit more, there's a bit more exposition, a bit more locking up and stuff, and the idea that the Time Lords trying to rebel against Romana and just sort of be devoted to the legacy of Rassilon rather than their actual corporeal president there. Is quite funny, because I think that shows just how mad the Time Lords can be at times. We also get a bit more backstory into the CIA as well, because the CIA pop up a lot in Doctor Who Expanded Media.
Yeah.
And they have one of I think, a really horrible punishment that is quite...
Yeah, it's you just get deleted from all time, in a sense, and then everything
shoved down
just
the
gets...
oubliette of eternity, which sounds great, the oubliette.
Yeah, it sounds a lot happier than what actually happens.
Yeah.
Because then you just got these creatures, the Never-Wers, just...
Yeah, the Never people.
The Never people just going mental because... Like, even former CIA agents in this have become...
people
Never
Romana
people.
was friends with as a child have been condemned, but because they never existed, technically no one's ever been thrown down the oubliette, so technically it's never been used, even though it has. And I love that kind of idea, is going, well, technically we haven't done anything wrong, because the people that have been chucked down there never existed anyway, because we chucked them down there. It's a bit of a fun little paradox.
Yeah, it's a nice little morality.
And of course we meet Centris as well, who's sort of like the main Never person that takes the form of Charlie, because she's the breach, and takes that form as a sort of like, I'm going to rise up and get out of here. And there's a lot of exposition. I think is just held up by some superb performances. Especially from India Fisher and Paul McGann, who are just on fine form in this, and finally admit their feelings for each other.
Yeah, it's as clear as day throughout everything. Yeah,
and Charlie full on admits that she loves it, and the Doctor basically reciprocates it. But the only thing they can do now to stop all of this anti-time and these Never people reaching the main universe is to blow it up inside the TARDIS. And we all think that the day is saved. I mean, Charlie, in terms of a paradox, is now being completely stabilised because her survival has now become fact.
Yeah.
But the Doctor has been hit with a big blast of anti-time and has basically taken on the form of Zagreus. Or Zagreus has possessed him. It's sort of a bit like ambiguous, but it's a good cliffhanger that people were left on for about 18 months at the time.
Yeah. That's the issue with the audibles, is the time between episodes. It can be quite long.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that you will come to see my frustrations of as we go along. But for now, we're not up to that point yet.
No. Thank God.
We got plenty of time. No, I really enjoyed this. It's a great, all right, a bit exposition heavy again, but a lot of this arc is, to be fair. But it's held up by some very good performances and some cool twists and turns along the way, and some very stunning imagery. So yeah. Do you want to lead us into our next one then?
Yes, so obviously, as we know, the Doctor is possessed by Zagreus, which is, funny enough, the title of the next episode.
What a segue.
I know. So this story is just following the Doctor battling Zagreus in his head for control of him, effectively. Charlie's thrown back into a weird time. The TARDIS has got a consciousness, and it's the bloody Brigadier. Charlie's dealing with that, and like a family being referred to as Romana and other people from Neverland story.
Bizarre stuff going on. This is the 40th anniversary special, basically. This was marked the 50th release of Big Finish so far, and it was released in November 2003. So it's 20 years old, and it's a weird one because although it's a 40th anniversary, it's divisive in a lot of areas, because I think people go into this and they look at the cover and they see the 4 Doctors on there, thinking you're getting a big multi-Doctor team up, and that's not what this is. But I really applaud the ambition behind this, because this is easily one of the most ambitious Doctor Who stories ever. It's just, it's incredible. It's the idea of celebrating Doctor Who, but through the creatives and the actors rather than the in-universe character sides. By Charlie's, like you said, the Doctor's trying to fight Zagreus and realises he can't leave the TARDIS thanks to a very cool Schrodinger's cat metaphor. The TARDIS is projecting the Brigadier, which is a nice little choice until we find out that that's actually... The TARDIS is also Zagreus. So it's also, we've got a good and bad Doctor and a good and bad TARDIS. And the good TARDIS is represented by John Pertwee from a fan film. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's a fever dream, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and every supporting actor is played by a Doctor Who companion, basically, or a Doctor Who actor, or people that would at least go on to star in the upcoming... I think everyone that had worked with Big Finish up to that point had done it. So there are a few notable absentees like Janet Fielding, Matthew Waterhouse, a few other people like that hadn't joined Big Finish yet. But everyone else up to that point, we have Sarah Jane, Elizabeth Stade, Annika Wills, there's a lot of people in it, and they all make up the supporting cast. And what I quite like is that they're all in groups. So when we have the character who's represented by Peter Davison as the 5th Doctor, but not the 5th Doctor, all the supporting cast are companions of the 5th Doctor, and the same happens with the 6th and the 7th. But what I like is that the crossovers as well, because, for example, Nicola Bryant plays 2 characters in this because she was only a companion of the 5th Doctor and the 6th Doctor, and same with Bonnie Langford, 6 to 7. It's one of those ones that on a first listen, it's a lot to take in. It does, for me, I didn't get on with this at all the first time I listened to it. I was like, what is this? What am I going into here? It's just waffle, and it's just all these different actors that are playing different parts, and I didn't get it. And it did take me a couple of listens, and the more I've listened to it, the more I have come to appreciate it, because it is Doctor Who going its most like Alice in Wonderland. It's so, it even mentions in the text that it's riffing on Alice in Wonderland imagery. We have things like the big stuffed toys in a war, and all the mechanical toys and everything, and Charlie basically sees himself as this big 6 foot tall duck in battle armor, and there's rabbit. It's honestly,
it's a fever dream.
I feel like I'm just on drugs, just trying to run down the plot and everything, because there's a lot of cool stuff in the plot, sort of around Gallifreyan lore, around why so many species look like Time Lords, i.e. look like humans, because Rassilon did it to stop the spread of a more powerful race, i.e. the Divergents. Honestly, I'm trying to sell it. Don't listen to me run down the plot, because that's not the point. It's a very fun, there's some very cool imagery, like the TARDIS being full of trees and everything.
Yeah.
Some great performances all around. I love the bit where, spoilers, blah, 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 they're in the death zone, and Charlie's like, where am I? I'm in some horrible, wet, miserable am I in Wales? Thinking that the death zone is Wales, because it's just miserable weather.
But Brecon is just a stone's throw away from us.
Yeah, that is, the death zone is all around Wales and the countryside, so it's a fun little intro, but also it just made me laugh, because, Cymru and Biff.
But it's also a lot of fun as well, because you got all 3 Doctors taking on evil TARDIS, Zagreus / Rassilon, or just whatever that fever dream is.
Yeah, and the 8th Doctor nearly regenerates.
Yes, he does nearly regenerate.
Very, very close.
But you see all 3 characters that the 3 Doctors are playing die, and then the Charlie kills the Doctor. Spoiler. And then the Doctor's having this really cool bit with the other 3 with his 3 previous incarnations as well,
which is basically like the Edge.
Yeah.
like that we see in Power of the Doctor. That's
Yeah.
what I think of it as, because they're all talking to him, sort of being like, no, you're not finished yet. You've got to go back and sort this out. And they do, but at a cost, because we have Romana's there again. This is the first time Romana and Leela meet, so that sets up the big Gallifrey spin-off, which is supposed to be brilliant. I've not heard a lot of it. I do keep meaning to, but like I said, it's all time in it.
Yeah.
But I think the Doctor and Charlie is the only acceptable loving relationship for Doctor and Companion, because I've said on record many times, I have a bit of an issue with it. I don't think it works. I didn't like it with the Doctor and Rose. I don't like it with, the Doctor and Clara, the Doctor and Yaz. I sort of can get it with the Doctor and River a bit. I throw all of that in the bin for the Doctor and Charlie.
Yeah.
It's just,
honestly, the end of this episode, the Doctor's basically accepted that he is Zagreus. He's let Zagreus win so he can save the day for everyone. And he's still cursed by this, and he has to go away to deal with it.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Into a completely new universe that doesn't have any time, like the concept of linear time, because the Divergents are trapped in a time loop. He goes into a universe with no time, so they can't get at him, basically. He can sort of stabilise a bit. But
and Charlie's gone with him, having stowed away.
Back door of the TARDIS, which I love the idea of the TARDIS having a back door that Leela's like, yeah, there's a back door, right?
Yeah. But it's just like that whole thing at the end where he's like, look, you've got to go.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It was horrible. It was a hard listen.
It's like Romana said, he's just being like cruel to be kind, basically, because he can't bring himself to tell Charlie the truth, and basically sort of tries to be horrible to her in the sense that she'll go, oh, well, I'm not doing this. I'll sod that.
Yeah.
And buggers off.
Yeah.
And they get exiled to a universe without time, which leads us directly into like the second big story arc of the Eighth Doctor stuff, which is the Divergent universe. And just to kick off, I think, with probably one of the best openers to a season or like story arc ever is Scherzo. And if I had £1 for every time Robert Sherman wrote an Eighth Doctor story that I consider to be one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time, I'd have £2, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah.
I think Scherzo.
What was the other one?
Chimes of Midnight.
Yeah, yes.
Chimes of Midnight is also written by Robert Sherman. I think this is one of the greatest and most underrated. I mean, it's not underrated because everyone loves it, but I think if more people knew this existed, it would be so higher. Because I thought this was going to be a Wild Blue Yonder type thing. Well, I thought Wild Blue Yonder was going to be sort of like this, with a big long corridor, something just in the distance that they can't quite see. And I thought, oh, is that what we're getting? Is this why this was kept under wraps? Because it's actually it wasn't, but you could see where I'm getting it from.
Yeah.
Because this could never be done on TV. Because the Doctor and Charlie essentially land the TARDIS disintegrates around them, and they're just in this bright white corridor where they can't see anything just except this piercing white light, and they're just walking and walking for ages, to the point where they're so sensory deprived that they actually don't realise they've been walking for hours and hours and days and weeks and weeks and weeks. And it's just a really dark deconstruction of that Doctor-companion relationship. Because it's all the two of them can do is talk.
Yeah, and he's gone back to calling her Charlotte as well, and it's just like, he's like, I did love you, and I trusted you to let me go, and now you've broken my trust, and it gets horrible.
It's quite dark, but not in the sort of... Well, I mean, there are parts of it that are dark, but like that dynamic between them and just breaking that down, and it's the Doctor going, yeah, look, I literally killed myself so that you could survive, and now here you are with me, and what was the point? Like, I've exiled myself to save you and everyone else, and you're still here. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating because we get that, and there is an antagonist as well, and it's a creature that is made of sound, and it's like a evolved evolution type thing, and there's a creature on the floor that the Doctor and Charlie just have to pick at and eat. Because they're like, although they don't feel hungry, they are going to be hungry because they've been walking for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. It's that sort of slow down, everything's not quite right because we're in a new universe, the laws don't apply, and at one point Charlie basically cuts the Doctor's throat open, so this creature, and the creature is so determined to play with them that it stops the Doctor from like bleeding out and dying. It's really, this is another one, it's like Chimes of Midnight syndrome, where I struggle to review it because I love it so much, because I can't pick it apart, because I just go, yeah, it's perfect. There's not a single thing I would change about it.
No, I absolutely love this episode as well. It is generally a great listen. I mean, I did have to properly sit down and listen to it. It's not something you could just, first time at least, have on in the background and you kind of pick up.
With all of them, you fake fan.
No. No, but you know what I mean. Like, if you're going to have it on, if you stop paying attention to it, just pause it and come back to it later.
Yeah,
because you will miss a lot.
And the whole point is you're meant to be basically there alongside the Doctor and Charlie just talking, because there are no other actors in this. It is just the two characters. You can't. If you try to tell someone, oh look, we've got a 2-hour audio play here, people basically walking down the corridor, it shouldn't work, but it just does because you just add those weird sort of abstracty elements to it of like this idea that they're just walking for ages, but how can they be walking for ages? What is this creature? Where are these noises coming from? The jump scares that literally, I don't often...
Not fun when you're driving.
Yeah, I should have mentioned, I should have really warned you about that, to be fair, that was my bad. But I first listened to this one, and there are some jump scares throughout it that really do work, because jump scares are there to make you, whoa, like that. See, I got him.
You hit me.
He's not pressing charges.
It's abuse. Lower.
I beg your pardon. But it works, and it's enough that it's not overused, because there's a couple of them, but they could do it every couple of minutes, but then it loses the impact. But when you just have it, and the idea that the Doctor and Charlie just communicating with this sound creature that's using their own voices back at them, and the sound of the TARDIS and stuff like that, it's just...
Like, they're just in a world of no sound.
Yeah, I almost don't want to spoil this one as well, because this is one that when you can work it out as you go along, but it's very satisfying when you get that payoff.
Yeah.
And it's just, and eventually then the Doctor and Charlie sort of find themselves going into a new place and a new universe, and that's where we'll join next time. But yeah, Scherzo is brilliant.
Have you seriously skipped over the fact that Charlie...
I was going to not spoil it. Oh. Like I just said, we don't want to give out the full twist.
Surprise!
I'll bleep it out, it's fine. So, yeah, there is big spoilers in that, which I think creates some of the darkest things in Doctor Who I've ever seen. And it's not...
Oh my god, yes.
It's not one of those things that's dark as in like Children of Earth dark. We're like, this is so bleak. It's just the concept of it going, where does Robert Sherman's mind go? Like, how does his brain work like this to come up with such a... But you could do something like that and it could almost feel a bit like gratuitous and over the top, but it doesn't. No,
it works so well in this. And, like, as you said, you can't do it on TV, but the visual aspect itself, the visualizing aspect of this is incredible. Like, you just let your mind wander when this is on, in an imaginary sense, in an imaginative sense, rather. I don't know. You get the gist. Yeah, you get the gist. Just stay focused on the story as well, and just let your mind just do things. Yeah. If you listen to Scherzo, just put headphones on and just like stare into the sun or something. I wouldn't recommend that. Don't do that. Just stare at like a white wall and just listen to it. Or a white piece of paper. Imagine doing that on the bus. People think you're mad. Yeah, do that on the bus and you get a prize. Also, speaking of prizes, the competition for naming our Sontaran mascot is still open. We have had some great suggestions so far. If you want to give us names for the Sontaran, let us know. I've got a couple of potential winners in mind so far. I need to have a proper look at all of them. Yeah, just do some admin, for God's sake. No, it's finding time with work and stuff, you know how it is. But... there's just no time, just like the universe the Doctor and Charlie are in. And that's where we'll come back to on our next Big Finish review, which won't be next week, probably be... 2-3 weeks or so, innit? Well, by the time that... Well, I don't know, because it's new Doctor Who soon as well. So maybe we will be picking this up after Series 1 has finished, because obviously we'll be breaking that down week by week. Oh, yeah, no, that's Saturday. But it's a week. By the time this goes out. A week Saturday. We don't know what we're doing, in case you couldn't tell. But yeah, there'll be something else next week. And then we'll be into Series 1, and then we'll go back and do some more Big Finish. So stick with us if you enjoyed it. We're going to be doing some fun things. Potentially may have some guests with us for Big Finish. Don't want to give anything away yet, but that'll be fun. Yes. But in the meantime, please keep yourself notified on us by liking and sharing the videos around and subscribing to the channel, which you guys have been doing great. That adverts video was brilliant. Yes, thank you for all of your lovely comments as well. It really just helps us out, and just puts a little bit. It keeps the lights on, and Tom needs a new car as well. So if you could just bung him a couple of quid as well. Jesus. Yeah. Okay. Well, you never know. It's worth a shot. You don't ask, you don't get. No, but I was hoping not to start a GoFundMe for the car. But well, we move. All right. Don't send him any money. Forget it. No one's sending him money. No, forget it. Do not send him money. Don't send him money. Don't send. No. You didn't want it. Ungrateful. Give it to someone else who actually likes it. Anyway, goodbye. Bye.